Sapphire joins us right now. Doctor, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys.
You know, every time people look at how the stock market's going up and down and up and down and down further and stuff like that, they freak out a little bit, and then they freak out a little more when they hear, you know, okay, 3 cases. People have been tested for and tested positively in Maryland. Are we freaking out too much?
You know, so the virus that's causing COVID-19, guys, is behaving exactly how we would expect a new virus that originates in a densely populated area in the middle of the Chinese New Year in an era of international travel. Yes, we have 98,000 global cases, but over 80,000 were within mainland China. And over 50% of those people have already recovered. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. One of the headlines recently that's coming out is now there's talking of 2 different strains of this virus, which is, I'm sure, going to incite panic. But guess what? We know that coronaviruses undergo antigenic shifts and drifts, which means that there are going to be variations in the virus. You know what else does this? The common cold coronavirus, as well as the flu virus, which is why we have to change the vaccines every year. So please don't panic from these headlines. We expect this to happen, and it doesn't mean that there's some crazy mutation that's going to come and that we have no way to be prepared for it, because the truth is we expect this.
Doctor, it originated in China, but are we seeing cases go up there, down? What's the trend?
So in the Hubei province, aside from Wuhan, in the last 24 hours was their first 24-hour period of no new cases, and all these surrounding provinces are reporting decreased cases. So it does seem in mainland China they are now finding a decrease, and that's where it started. So we're going to see more cases here. The CDC has now lessened the restrictions on who's being tested. So the more tests we do, the more people and cases are going to be reported.
The one thing that I was worried about, and I've been texting with you about this, I have an infant at home, and I always think, okay, an infant is vulnerable. Their immune system is not ready for all this. But what's interesting about this is there's no reported deaths in young children. Should that ease people's minds who have infants or young children at home?
Well, surprisingly, infants and young children are having what it seems to be a resistance to this COVID-19. Now, as opposed to the flu, where we've had about 125 young children die from the flu. When it comes to young children, we always want to keep them safe, and I would say do the exact same things for this virus as you would for the flu, but it does seem that the flu is significantly more dangerous for children than the virus causing COVID-19.
And I read a couple of stories this week. The reason they think the children who have contracted it are having milder versions of it. They think the children could actually be the carriers of it in some cases.
You know, I've read mixed reports of that, and I'm not going to go on either way on it, but the truth is it does seem that the adolescents that get it have mild illness, but most people have mild illness when they have it. Close to 85% will just have upper respiratory symptoms, almost similar to a common cold.
Now, what about a vaccine? Because I've heard, you know, very different timelines.
Well, I'll be honest. In record-breaking time, 42 days after China released the genetic sequence, the Moderna Therapeutics has come up with a vaccine that's currently under review, and they're already recruiting patients for their human trial out of Seattle with an expected launch date of end of April. Now, that being said, it still takes a while to make sure that the vaccine not only works but is safe. So it'll probably be towards the end of 2020, maybe early 2021 before we see a vaccine available.
Now, what's your advice in terms of travel or crowds? I did a speech the other night. I was actually afraid to shake people's hands, which I also ran by you. But is that a fair point? Do you know, maybe don't get on a plane if you don't have to? Don't go into a crowded room if you don't have to?
Well, you know, when you travel, actually, you're more likely to get infected with something on the process before and after the actual airplane. So if you're practicing, listen, common sense, low-tech capabilities, washing hands, cleaning surfaces, stay away from sick people. You know, I'm traveling next week. I am not canceling my family's vacation because of this, but we will take the proper precautions, and we'll deal with the consequences if anybody gets sick. But I'm more worried about catching the flu again, because we've already had round 1 in my household.
And I read the #1 way people are getting sick is they're touching their face. You know, it's not me coughing on you, it's you touch something where stuff is, and you touch your face, and the next thing you got.
The View did something interesting the other day. They actually counted how many times each one of their anchors touched their face, and I think Joy Behar touched her face 21 times in during the show, and that's it. But people don't know that they do it. They're whatever that is, especially children, and it's very difficult to get children not to stick their fingers in their mouth, and that, unfortunately, is something we have to do. That is key to not getting infected.
Put the kids in mittens, I read.
I tell them to hold their hands in the pockets.
All right.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for answering all my texts, by the way.
I love you. You know I do.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. She made a couch call. 7:13 now.